issues and the plight of the abducted passengers, efforts of the government to effect their release, and really what does the terrorists want from the federal government. They say they don't want money and that the federal government does know what they are requesting for. To look at these issues amongst many, we are looking at having this conversation with former Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme, Professor Usman Yusuf, who also seems to have traveled with Islamic scholar Ahmad Gumi to various camps of the bandits in the forest. Good morning, Professor. It's good to have you on the show.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, let's first of all start with the... I'm sure a lot of people will be curious to hear what your journey was like with the Islamic scholar Ahmad Gumi to the various camps of the terrorists in the forest. Now, what was that journey like, and what really triggered that adventure in the first place?
Yeah, this is an old story. We've been doing this for the last 2 years. We went into the forest in 8 states in northern Nigeria, 5 in the northwest, and 3 in the north central. And the reason we went was to listen, because Martin Luther King said, violence is the language of the unheard. And we adults, government, nobody is listening to anybody that has problem. So that was the reason. Our reason was to go out there and listen. We have lived in this country. We are all Fulanis. We've lived in this part of the world with our folks in the forest for generations. What happened? Why are they killing us? Why are we fighting? Why do we have ethnic clashes all over between Fulanis, House of Fulanis, Nupes Fulanis, Gwaris? Something has happened. And somebody needs to ask those questions. These questions have not been asked. And we went in there, he would listen to all of them. And then he would speak to them in the sternest of voices. That we have heard you. We have heard your grievances. Your grievances are real. But there are no reason for what you are doing. There's nowhere in our culture, in our upbringing, or in any scripture that will support what you are doing. And just like we come to you, we go back to our elected representative, our governors, and also interact with them and tell them and hear their part. But our purpose is to find peace all across the land. And that's essentially the purpose of the visit. And we have been visiting, we meet Fulani leaders, we meet traditional rulers, we have met with victims, we have met with clerics all across. And the whole idea is to preach peaceful coexistence. We've been to 8 states, 28 more to go. This requires the involvement of everybody. There is insecurity in each of the 6 geopolitical zones in this country. We encourage every person in each of the 6 geopolitical zones to get involved in their insecurity. What we have found out is over the 2 years we've been doing this, is that in all the 6 geopolitical zones, elders have lost control of their youth. That's why in the northeast, Kanuri elders have lost control of their youth. That's why you have Kanuri youth as Boko Haram. And we, Fulani elders, have lost control of our youth. Okay, that's why you see Fulani youth doing all this banditry in the northwest. Okay,
so you are...
And also in the southeast, Igbo elders have lost control of their youth. That's why you see kids that were born long after the Civil War wanting to break this country up again. And we saw that in the southwest. In Lagos, during NSAS, when those kids went berserk, they burnt down buses and ransacked the palace of Lagos. There was not a single Yoruba elder that could have called them to order. So we've all lost control of our youth all across this country, and elders must come in. On our side of the country, we are doing our part. Only us can solve our problems. We do not expect anybody from any other region or from the sky or from outside to solve our problem. So we're doing what we must do, and we're continuing to do that. We've been to 8 states, 28 more to go.
28 more
because there are Fulanis all across this country in all the 6 geopolitical zones. The whole idea is preaching peaceful coexistence with local communities. So that's why we went. That's why we went.
All right. Let me come in
we're
here.
Still doing things not the razzmatazzy way, going into the forest.
Yes.
We're still reaching out and meeting communities
and having conversations with them.
We're meeting everybody. I'm going into a meeting now after we finish this.
All right. Let me come in here because I hear you, and I hear you loud and clear. 28 more states to go. You have also affirmed here on live television that, you know, you seem to have understood that it is the lack of control of the youths, you know, by the elders, you know, across the geopolitical zones that have let this canine out to roost. Again, you have also said that, yes, that the of course, some of these people who have been causing this heartache for Nigerians, you know, severally from the conversations you've had and the visit, seem to also be, you know, part of the Fulani extraction. You mentioned the Fulani headsmen, and they are usually, as we all know, peaceful people. But how do they go from peace to, you know, to catastrophe? And that's what you want to understand. Now, it's been 2 years you had that journey, that conversation. What has been the result? What was the follow-up? Was the federal government also giving preview to some of the recommendations and the demands of these persons who have often been labeled by a lot of people globally and otherwise as terrorists? What are they really asking for? What is the demand?
Right. And we did not go there at the behest of the government or anybody. Right. The federal government did not send us there, neither the military or any agency. We went there because it was our duty to do our part. Because insecurity and security in this country is not the preserve of the military or the government alone. Everybody must do his part. So we went in there to do our part. The government did not send us with anything to negotiate with them. No. We did that on our own. We went in there. So what have been the result? The whole purpose was to open a line of communication and listen to the grievances of these people that are causing all this havoc across the land. Even in your home, if your kids are fighting, you don't go around slapping everybody. You listen to everybody and find out what the problem is. And that was what we went to do. And over the 2 years, what we have been able to do is to open the channel of communication before it was shut when they were declared terrorists by the government, just for political reasons. And what have we been able to achieve? We have open line of communications between us, the combatants, and we're reaching out to government too. And I must admit, this is a government that is not amenable to listening. This is a government that thinks banditry can be solved militarily, which is wrong. I've said it severally. Banditry is a social problem. All the problems are local. The solutions are local. Big plans from Abuja haven't worked and will not work. And that there's a role for the military, but there's not going to be a military solution to banditry. The role of the military is to provide an enabling environment for dialogue to happen and peace. So, throwing bombs will not solve this problem. This problem will go on till kingdom come if we do not address the primary problem. What are the grievances? The grievances are generational. We that live in this part of the country know the generational grievances of our folks in the forest. Nobody is giving justification to any of these criminalities. And what it has boiled down to is that generations of leadership have not been listening to grievances that you and I may consider silly, but God, when folks pick up arms, then you listen to them. Isn't that what happened in South? We've been polluting their land and extracting oil for generations. Nobody listening to them. Then all of a sudden, when they picked up arms, we created Ministry of Niger Delta, we created NDDC. And God help us if the 10.5 million out of school children pick up arms, or the millions of unemployed kids pick up arms. Our leadership The ones we voted in to listen to us are not doing their job. They are not listening. They're all in Abuja. So we must listen. And even at home, if your house girl is not happy, for goodness sake, listen to her. Listen to her. Be human. Ask her, how is she? Has she eaten? How is her family? Because she's the one that makes your house move. Our leadership do not rule with the milk of humanity. They don't. They're all here in Abuja not listening, disconnected from realities of our people. Insecurity everywhere in this country is a result of twin evils, corruption and bad governance. Say that again, corruption and bad governance. All across. There can never be peace without justice. So we must listen to people we don't think are important to us. Your driver is really important to you. Your house girl, your security man. So we are now reaping years of neglect of these people. And somebody told me, we all carried the pregnancy and gave birth of this monster we are now calling banditry and terrorism.
All right.
We must listen.
Okay.
Our government is listening.
Okay, I'm sure that the government is listening this morning, because you have said something quite clear. You said rather than listen, they were in a hurry to have labeled them terrorists for political reasons. But then, if you look at the definition of terrorism or banditry, it also involves, occupants, occupying several parts of the communities. I mean, look at Niger State and several communities under siege. They have been taken over by the bandits now. Some are paying taxes and levies to these people just so that they can move freely and have safety within their communities. Some schools have been shut down across the northwest. Across Nigeria, people no longer feel safe. We do remember that Commissioner of Police for Kaduna State recently said that, well, the Abuja highways are now free to travel on. But people would listen to that with trepidation, considering what just happened in the Abuja train saga, where we saw, abductions of Nigerian citizens, some of whom are still abducted. Now, the conversation here, we started this with what has happened since 2 years after the visit. Now, I brought that up because this conversation really looks at the number of abductees still with the bandits and how to get them out. What do the bandits want? How do we negotiate their release from these bandits?
Right. So I've lost my audio. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
What happened? You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Did you hear
Right.
Did you hear my question? I am asking
Good.
now.
Good.
What's the next phase?
I had you. I had you. So what happened in I've lost my audio.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
So what happened along the Kaduna Abuja railway line should worry every Nigerian, because what we are seeing, and this is what Sheikh Gumi has been worried about all these years we've been going into the bush, that we need to get to these people before Boko Haram or ISWAP get to them with their twisted religious ideologies that these bandits, the ragtag bandits we saw, do not share. And once you have a marriage between these bandits and Boko Haram, we're in deep trouble. And the moment it happened, we knew this is not the job of these ragtag bandits, because they have no capabilities of using explosives. Because the captives that were taken out of the train, they were transported in buses. Mm-hmm. This is the modus operandi of Boko Haram, ISWAP, not bandits. They know the terrain. They don't need buses. They don't need buses. So these are MOs. We're in more serious trouble today than we were before, because we are seeing this marriage that we fear. And the federal government needs to take this seriously and see a way to tease these bandits away from any alliance with Boko Haram or ISWAP or Ansar or the other one, because the marriage between them will give them a foothold In the Northwest, they have coveted for 13, 14 years. And that has been resisted and thwarted by traditional rulers and religious leaders in this part of the country. So this is a new ball game. The stakes are higher today than they were 3, 4 weeks ago. So they have literally now blockaded the city of Kaduna, which is the center of the north. You cannot go safely by road. The road has become the highway to hell. Rail is blown up. The trains are there now, laying on their side. I remember they attempted to go into the airport in Kaduna. Their strategy is going after infrastructure, which is not the modus operandi of bandits. This is classic Boko Haram ISWAP. As we speak today, Nigerians may not know because it's not been reported. The capital city of Borno State, Maiduguri, has been without electricity for 15, 16 months because Boko Haram blew up the transmission line into the city. This is Boko Haram ISWAP. They are going after infrastructure, and we are just doing fire brigade approach. We need to re-strategize. We are more trouble today, security-wise, than we were before now. And our folks that are in the forest, after this attack, I call on the federal government. Nobody in the federal government has met with the families. None. None. This is not acceptable. We don't know what they want, and it is the responsibility of the federal government to engage and get our people out of the forest. But it's now 3 weeks, the federal government, nobody has engaged relatives of the victims. We've been meeting them, they are coming to us, they are going to Shegumi. No relative, and you go to Shegumi's house, every day you see people trooping from all over the country that this is happening, my relative has been abducted. No victim will have access to the governor, any state, or to the GOC, or to the police commissioner, because they are all shut from the people, or the minister representing the state in the Federal Executive Council. They come to the cleric. Go to his home every day. He reaches out. Oh yeah, now they say, oh, you don't interact with terrorists. Our reach is limited, but we're still not relenting. We are meeting, we are talking, we are pushing doors open and talking on behalf of victims. Federal government must listen. The Minister of Transportation must address the families of the victims, because it is on his turf that this thing happened. And it is irresponsible